The following podcast is an enticing media production. Thank you for listening to this podcast. You are now socially obligated to pour yourself a drink, and welcome to the Drunk Squirrel.
Jesus is always watching.
Well, that can be fixed. I mean, I can just turn them around for you.
I mean,
There you go.
it's an action figure.
Jesus is watching you.
He's watching me?
Yeah, he's watching you.
Okay. Well, that's fair enough.
Kenny.
Rob.
Shit.
Shit.
We just spent 30-ish minutes in the kitchen.
We did.
I'm scared.
Me too.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily have anything in my earphones right now,
Okay.
but it's recording, so I'm guessing we're fine.
It's showing at least 2 channels?
It is.
Okay.
And the third one, not yet, because
yet, 'cause
he's
we-
just sitting over there.
Yeah, he's definitely your guest to introduce, but I'm a little bit scared.
You're scared? Why?
I
I know why. But why
am
don't
I
you
allowed
tell-
to know the things that I now know? I don't think I know anything.
You might know more till this is all said and done with.
Shit.
It's just interesting, though, because a lot of the stuff I already know.
I know.
But I'm excited because this is a drunk squirrel. So I'm excited to have the conversations about wine and bourbon and things like that. But I know the stuff that you want to talk about is different than the stuff that I want to talk about.
Well,
So-
and there are some things I want to geek out on, but wow, there are whole other things that it was, what just happened? What?
yeah, that happens.
Ah.
Yeah. I feel like we should have had... If I would have thought ahead and I wasn't worried about rain, because we never know today. This whole weekend's been rain on and off. So I do feel like, though, we could have done this on the deck.
Well, we keep saying we need to be out on the deck.
And there could have been cigars for the episode, but
and
we
the
will
girls could have
do that
joined us.
eventually. But,
Yeah.
it's not going to be today.
All right. Kenny,
Yes.
why don't you introduce what we are drinking, or at least introduce the guest to introduce what we are drinking?
Well, I'm going to introduce our guest because he brought what we are drinking.
Yeah.
So one of them I'm well aware of. The other one I'm not so familiar with. So we're going to allow that. So anyway, our guest today is my father-in-law, Randy Kreiser. Randy, welcome.
Thank you.
Rob's been asking for this episode for a while.
I really wanted Ray to be here. And I mean, after the conversation in the kitchen, I really want Ray to be here because I found out some neat things. But yes, your father-in-law, Randy Kreiser, and you brought the drinks today.
I did. So I brought 2 bottles. The first bottle, the one that we're drinking, I think right now, is called Penelope. It's the Architect. That's the particular version of it. And it's one that I've got introduced to earlier this year when I was in Florida by the group that I was speaking for and so forth. And we were doing, bourbon by the pool with cigars and that sort of thing.
That doesn't sound terrible at all.
Not terrible at all, especially in January in Florida when it's about 70 degrees out at midnight. It was really pretty
God.
nice.
That sounds wonderful, actually.
Okay, there we go. Bourbon,
just had to
cigars,
watch-
midnight, your pool.
We just had to watch out for the alligators. But,
hopefully there's fences up for that.
There was,
Okay.
but they said some of them that live in that pond that was right next to us could probably push the fence over.
Okay.
So
Note to self, even if there's a fence, keep an eye out for the alligators.
yeah, exactly. I figured I only had to run faster than one other person.
That's 100% true. You just don't have to be the slowest guy.
That's right. The second bottle is one from Portland, Oregon, called Westward. I was introduced to it a couple of years ago by a mutual friend of ours, and at a party, and I became a member. So I get 3 bottles a quarter, and they have a unique taste and a bunch of different types that they release, and I've liked all of them. Jill and I were at an event in June that they basically rented out the second floor of a pharmacy that also is part liquor store. And they provided,
it.
some hors d'oeuvres and things like that. And they had all of their offerings there. It was awesome. And they talked about, their process for distilling. And I mean, it was very informative and it was a great time. Got to meet other aficionados of Westward in the Baltimore area. There were probably about 35 or 40 people there. It was a lot of fun. And then, of course, we used that as an opportunity to have dinner at Jimmy's afterwards.
No, really?
Yeah.
I'm surprised because Westward is not exactly, a nat. I mean, it's in the area. I feel like you learned of it because of, John Tice.
John Tice, yeah.
But, like, in the area, I mean, this is in the Pacific Northwest, to have 30 or 35 people there that are aficionados or just fans of that bourbon is in Baltimore, completely on the other side of the country, is impressive because they haven't been around for that terribly long.
They haven't. And it was rather surprising to me when I first tried it. And then, he sent me an email with a link, and I went to their website and I saw that they had a club. And of course, being a member of so many wine clubs, I thought, well, this wouldn't hurt, kind of thing. And shipping to Maryland's not a problem anymore. So I thought, how bad can this be? So I did it, and everything they've sent me has been really tasty and really good. So I've enjoyed it quite a bit.
Yeah, that's what I'm drinking right now. I don't know what you two are drinking at the moment.
So I switched over to the Penelope, but I had a little bit of the Westward, and that really did. That had a great nose to it. It was, you said it was aged in stout barrels?
Stout barrels.
Yeah, so I mean, to me, it had a bit of a smoky, chocolatey nose, and it was really good. It was smooth.
The one I had prior to this was aged in Pinot Noir barrels.
Oh.
Ooh.
And definitely different.
Yeah.
But certainly unique and really tasty. Like I said, I probably have now, since I've been a member for 2 years, I know that I'm sitting on probably 12 to 15 bottles, because I don't drink all 3 that I get every quarter. I drink 2 and hold one, right? Because I'm now ready for the next shipment, that kind of thing. Plus I'm drinking other things in between. But I've enjoyed every one of them, and they do different things and so forth. And their mash, they change it up to produce different varieties and so forth.
Oh, interesting. So they don't just have one singular mash that they use.
Don't.
They're adjusting it to the barrel they're intending to age in, or just
they're getting to that point, right?
Okay.
And they're putting it seems like a lot of thought for something that's simple, but they're doing that, right?
You say simple, but scotches and bourbons are so subtle in their tastes and flavors.
They are, and they've invested in a lot of this, because at the meeting that we went to, they talked about some of the things they experimented with, and they just didn't turn out well. So they had to dispose of the barrels because they weren't worthy of selling or anything, or even drinking.
That's actually a pretty decent level of commitment to the product.
R&D,
at
the barrel level.
Well, I mean, you guys are aware. I mean, when you're doing something or when they're starting something, because like we said, this is not a company that's been around for a long time. Not everything's going to be a hit. Right. And so you got to decide then at that point if you want to put this product out to the world, or if you need to, start over.
Exactly. And I think they're at the point now where they've become such a big hit, especially locally, where they partner, because Portland, Oregon is one of the biggest areas for microbrews in the country. So they partner with different microbrews to get these barrels and to do the things that they're thinking about. And they put a lot of work into it. And, it's really worked out for them, I think, quite well.
Obviously.
All right. I'm going to throw the first curve.
You already?
Yeah.
We're 9 minutes in, man.
Come
know. On. You
I
can't just
know.
let me enjoy this?
Actually, I picked something that I think is going to fit for the both of you.
Okay.
And I know literally nothing about.
Okay.
Okay. Which Philadelphia Philly hit a home run in the 1950 game in which they clinched the pennant?
1950?
I'll give you options.
Jesus, man. Come on.
All right. And Randy, feel free to jump in as well.
This might have to be a Randy answer. I was born 27 years later.
I know, but I'm debating if you just insulted your father-in-law
That's
because
not
you're
true
going to
at all.
8
disappear.
years for me after.
But at least you're closer.
Well, hey, you guys are Philly fans, and this is question 1. So here are your options: Richie Ashburn, Willie Jones, Del Ennis, or Dick Seisler.
Oh, wow. I'm going to go with Del Ennis.
Okay. I'm going to go with the obvious answer here. It's probably not correct, and Richie Ashburn.
Dick Seisler.
Okay.
Oh, that was my second choice.
There you go.
Yeah, I know nothing about the Phillies, so I'm out.
Well, I know nothing about the Phillies in the 1950s.
Hey, it was one of their pennant games. So
Yeah,
it was-
look, I get it. You know,
All right.
start getting into like the 1980 World Series, and then
Well, we're getting
at
there.
least I
That
was alive
question
at that
one.
point.
That was question 1.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Yeah, I'm throwing curveballs every so often.
You started. The interesting part about it is in the last episode, the Friends trivia. You started slow, like you gave me some easy ones, like you put them on a tee, and no problem. But then there were some hard questions later in the episode
Okay, but the Friends trivia, I actually know a bit of Friends stuff.
that you do.
I know nothing about the Phillies other than I'm a Pirates fan.
That doesn't have anything to do with the Phillies.
No, I know. So I know nothing about the Phillies.
They're both from Pennsylvania.
That is true.
There you go. That's
That
it.
is true. They're both from Pennsylvania.
Okay, so you were a connoisseur of many things. I mean, bourbons, whiskeys, scotches, but also wines as well, because I've seen Kenny's basement, and he's told me like 90% of that is you.
90.
I don't know.
It's probably 99.9.
Okay.
Anyway,
He secretly says 90 when you're not around.
that's not true at all. Actually, I've never said that.
But I mean, how did you get into these different areas? I mean, wines and bourbons are two very far apart fields.
Yeah, they are. So bourbon for me has been more recent.
Okay.
And wine started when I started working in California. So I started working in California where I was working 3 days a week in California. 3 days. So I'd spend Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday nights in California. I was on a U.S. Airways or an American or an America West airplane on Thursday.
You had an
night.
apartment in California at one point,
I did.
correct?
Yeah, I did, in Mountain View. And then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I would be in Maryland and then do the whole thing over again every Monday. So I was flying back and forth every week, essentially commuting to the West Coast. And I was a beer drinker. Because if you went to the liquor stores here in Lebanon, the wine was not, very good that you could buy. For the most part.
Crap for wine.
Crap for wine.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I coined that phrase.
I know it. It's ingrained in my head.
So I was converting at that time over to dark beers, because microbrews started to become prevalent at that point. And I would go out to dinner with customers and coworkers and things of that nature. And I remember being at a high-end restaurant entertaining AOL. They had a group of people in that came for a corporate visit. I did one of the presentations and got invited to dinner.
All right, I got to ask. You were working with AOL. Like, what generation of early AOL?
Early
90s
AOL.
Okay.
Yeah, really early AOL. We're talking about 1995 here.
Okay.
So we're talking dial-up, that
Yeah.
kind of thing, right?
Yeah, for those of you
yeah.
under the age of 30 out there, dial-up sounded horrendous. 30 might even be generous.
It might be generous.
Yeah. So, I'm at dinner, and the sales rep that was hosting AOL, we were selling tens of millions of dollars of hardware to them, and especially the hardware that I was putting in there for storing all the email and so forth, and ads and so forth. And she was ordering from the wine list, and she didn't really have a good idea about what was very good. And at that time, I didn't either. But one of the other coworkers that we were with, he had, pretty good ideas. So he was ordering bottles of wine, and I'm talking about 1995 now, that were probably $300, which was a lot of money I guess, back then, and so
I
forth.
mean, $300 for a bottle of
gonna
wine,
say,
I
that's
feel
still
like
a
is a
lot
lot of money
today.
now. I mean, it depends on like what your level of a lot of money is and what you know about wine.
But
20
we had
bucks.
18 people, and we went through. I almost don't want to say this. 14 bottles of wine at $300 a pop.
But I mean, 18 people.
Yeah.
I mean, you're only like, typically you're getting what, 4 to 5 glasses out of a bottle. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like
So
that's not.
we almost drank a bottle per person. It was kind of crazy. But I'm drinking my beer, and
Oh, so you're not drinking it.
I wasn't drinking
Oh, wow.
at
Okay.
first.
So it's not even you had a whole bottle. You were off and
Well, I think I caught up, but
Okay.
I wasn't. I was drinking dark beer, and my coworker says to me, "You need to try this." So I did, and I liked it. That's when I first started, right? That was probably the first glass of wine that I had outside of at a party trying something here or there. And I really did like it. And I was like, wow, this is really good. So I wrote it down because you couldn't take a picture with cell phones back
Why
then.
didn't you just get your iPhone out?
Yeah, well, we didn't have those at that time. So I wrote it down, and I come back, and the first thing I do is I go to the liquor store in Maryland, and I can't find it. Like, do you have this? No, we don't carry that kind of thing. So I go back the following week, and I said, I can't find that wine anywhere, in Maryland. And they said, oh, yeah, that's probably not distributed to the East Coast. We keep the good stuff for ourselves.
Fair
And I was
enough.
like, you hosers. So
They know what they have.
So what I did was my coworker said, look, when you're here over weekends, and I was occasionally, at least one weekend a quarter, why don't you just go up to Napa? And if you want, we'll go up with you. Okay, so I started doing that. Boy, that's when it started, right? So I started tasting wines that never got distributed to the East Coast until years later. And I developed I guess it's fair to say, a high-end taste for wines.
I would say that's true.
So, and then I'm talking to winemakers. I'm talking to the owners of the wineries because back in the 90s, they were right there. They were pouring,
yeah.
and all that.
So the owners were pouring during a
A lot
tasting.
of them were. That's how I met Bruce Cakebread at Cakebread Winery. And then Bruce offered a cooking class over a winter. And he said, I know you're not going to be here every weekend, but take the class, even if you only come to 2 or 3 of them.
Wow.
Kind of thing. So I did. And of course, when the weather broke and started getting really nice in California by March, April, nobody was showing up. So I'm the only guy that shows up. And he says, all right, what do you want to do? I said, what do you mean? He said, do you want to cook or do you want to do something else? And I said, well, what I'd really like to know is I'd like to start in the vineyard. What goes on with the grapes? How are they cultivated? What are you doing out there that separates your grapes from any of the other wineries? Because they hate talking about competition. They don't talk about other wineries as competition. They talk because they're all really friends, right? Most of them anyway. And they all get along pretty well. But what are you doing differently that separates what you're putting in the bottle in the vineyard compared to anybody else? And he said, okay, let's go out. And I got there about 9:30 on a Saturday morning. It was 5:30 till we left. Well, till we finished. I shouldn't say we didn't leave because he said, we're firing up the grill. You want to stay for dinner kind of thing.
Like,
So-
I do.
Absolutely. So we spent probably, because we didn't have lunch, because I don't normally eat lunch on a Saturday. I have a big breakfast. I had it at the hotel before I drove up. And we spent so much time in the vineyards itself, and he showed me how they cut back the leaves to make sure that it gets a certain amount of sunlight, and I mean, all kinds of things. And they adapt and need to be flexible depending on how much water, rain they're getting or not getting and all that. And then he showed me the crush pads and all that and how they go through that process and how the different grapes go through a different, separation from the skins or not and so forth, and how they go about all of it depending on what it is.
I mean, so he dug really deep.
Oh, he went so deep. It was such a knowledge transfer, and that's exactly what it was. And I learned so much by that. He later, about a year later, came back to me and said, "Hey, I want to put together," you'll laugh, "a CD with all kinds of like white papers and stuff on the different wines and so forth." And he said, "I believe that you probably learned quite a bit when you were here, and I think you would be great to talk about." And he picked Atlas Mountain. And he said, "I want you to take a quarter of Atlas Mountain. You pick which side, which quarter you want to write about, and write about it." And I said, "Really? How many pages do you think I can write about Atlas Mountain?" And only a quarter of it. He says, "When you get into it, you'll figure it out." Well, I wrote 7 pages.
Oh, wow.
About this. And he published this because he had other people, people that worked at the winery and so forth. And he published this in the 90s, late 90s, I think it was. It was very interesting. I've got a copy of it laying around somewhere. And but it was such a knowledge transfer, and I just got fully enveloped in this. And so that was Cakebread. So then I go to Honig, and I met the new winemaker. It was a woman. This is the first time they had a woman at Honig as the winemaker. And she was telling me about the things that she was doing and so forth. And it was very interesting. And we were sampling some of these wines and so forth. And of course, then she brings out the rosé. And I was like, I don't mean to offend you, but I don't include rosé as a red wine. It's not red, it's pink. And I'm not doing pink, I'm not doing white. I like red, and that's what I want.
And that's still your stance.
And it is. It's still my stance. I don't drink anything other than red wines. And, so I've become a member there. And I'm actually a double red member for all the legacy high-end red wines that they produce. But then I met Chuck Camus at Camus. And, it just goes down the list. And Dario Satui at Satui, V. Satui. And now, he built the castle in, a little bit further north up Route 121.
I like how that's so nonchalant. Like, yeah, well, he built a castle.
Yeah.
Which we were at.
Yes, we were.
So.
And if you remember that...
I remember it quite well.
That tour, we were given a tour that most people don't get.
Well, it's likely something that I don't think I'll ever forget. Hopefully, I get to do it again someday. But... yeah, that whole trip was, was unbelievable.
It was a great time. But, getting to know Dario, of course, I spend a lot of money between Castello di Amoroso, which is the castle, and V. Satui, and I just bought some more V. Satui, which won't ship until probably October. And I might ship it directly to you.
Have you gotten more of the family red? Are they still doing that?
They are doing family red, but I've graduated to the high end.
Okay.
I'm actually getting. It was funny. I saw an ad that they sent me an email for 2004. It was a library release, and it was a limit of 1 bottle. So I called up Stacy Monahan, who is the person that deals directly with me, and I said, "Stacy, are you?"
He has his own person, by the way.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. We'll get to my reaction in a minute.
So I said to Stacy, I said, "Really? 1 bottle? I mean, come on. I mean, I'm calling you. That's worth at least 2 bottles."
That's what I'm
And
thinking.
she just said, "Look, I'm not going to argue with you. How many do you want?" And I said, I don't want to go overboard. How about 6? She says, "Done."
I don't want to go overboard. Only 6 times more than you're offering anybody else. That's not overboard, though, right?
No, not at all. I think she was worried I was going to ask for a full case.
Okay, you seem to be the man who gets into the room at the right times, in the right places, in the right ways, and has the right mindset. It's how I started the episode. Shit.
Well, when we went to Napa wine tasting, I don't even know how many years ago that was now at this point.
Wow, yeah. I mean,
it's been quite some time.
It was way before COVID. I know.
Oh, way before COVID.
Yeah, I know that I had taken another group, which was Rich Arena and his wife Suzanne, and a guy that I hired at DDN. That was in 18, and we went before 18,
This was before that.
probably 15
But-
or 16.
I will tell a couple of stories just from that trip to give some context here as to what's happening. So when we arrived, we flew into Oakland.
Was it? Yeah, it was
No,
Oakland.
we flew into Oakland, and immediately from the rental car, you left, and you're like, I'm gonna go get the rental car. It was a Suburban.
Yep.
And I'll meet you guys outside, and we'll collect. Lawson was along, and Nell was there. Jill was there. It was the five of us, right? I think it was the five of us.
Yeah.
So we immediately went directly from there to Visatui.
No, we went to.
I think we
I
went.
thought we went to. I thought we went to Sonoma.
I thought we went to
Did we?
Visatui
Okay,
directly.
maybe it was.
Either way, so we get there, picnic tables outside, and they have like a little deli that they're making
that's
sandwiches and
Visatui.
stuff. So immediately a bottle of Family Red and sandwich, and that literally immediately off the plane, we were immersed in it right away. So
I mean,
he says,
we get off the plane, and I'm like, you. Make sure everybody gets their luggage. Get outside.
Yep.
I'm going to the rental car place, and I'm pulling up with the Suburban, and we're loading up, and we're hitting the first winery.
That's exactly how it went. Now, meanwhile, Lawson has tickets to a Giants game, a Giants baseball game while out there in San Francisco. So he's like, oh, I'm going to go to this game. Like, he really wants to go to this game because Lawson's a sports fanatic, right? So we get about a day into it, 2 days into it, maybe. Lawson no longer wants to go to this baseball game because he's having way too much fun tasting wine. He doesn't even go to the game.
He didn't
owns
even
these
sell
tickets.
his tickets.
No, he just like, I'm not going because I don't want to miss anything that's going on in this group. He just literally just abandons the game, right?
Yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah, it was. So anyway, so Joseph Phelps, this is a story I want to tell because it says a lot to the level that you were at there at this point. So Joseph Phelps, we're in the Suburban, we're driving, and Nell calls Joseph, the winery, Joseph Phelps. That she doesn't call him personally, but calls the winery and says, hey, we were going to come for, this was a weekend, I think, actually. We're going to come for a tasting. And they're like, oh, we don't, we're fully booked. We don't have any openings or whatever, right? So she hangs up and she's like, we don't. And he says, call him back. Call him back and tell him who you're with, right? So this was like the mic drop of the story. So she calls back and says, hey, I'm with Randy Kreiser, and the tone completely changes because they're on speakerphone, and they're like, you come in right away. So we get there. And there's a crowd of people everywhere, right? They're like, whatever. We get there. They usher us away to this like private room. And they're like, what would you like? What would you like to open? What would you like to taste? They take us out to this terrace that overlooks the vineyard on this terrace. And they're opening their like the best of the best.
It was libraries, bottles.
And these
whatever,
bottles
10,
aren't
12
just
years
like in
old.
the normal tasting, like for normal. And we're sitting overlooking the vineyard on this terrace, drinking the best of the best that they have to offer. And I'm like, wow, this is something.
They were drinking library bottles of Bacchus.
It was unbelievable.
which
There's a
is
lot of
their-
Bacchus in the basement, actually.
Yeah, which is their reserve Cabernet.
I'm scared to ask this question, but at the same time, like the curiosity killed the cat. Like, what's the most expensive bottle then that you have had?
Well, that's a good question.
I would that he's had or that he's purchased or that he owns.
Yeah, because they're different.
I'm
Right,
going to go
that's-
with had.
Okay.
Okay. So when I worked at DDN, I had dinner with our CEO at Levin Madison, which is a Michelin 5-star restaurant. And he told me...
Okay, hold on. Kenny and I are both just kind of went, yep, this sounds like it's par for the course, and we're Central PA schlubs.
Nell would definitely appreciate the Michelin, rating for sure.
You married up. A lot.
I've told you this plenty of times.
I know. Neither of us are.
Nell is so much better than I am.
For either of our wives, but okay, I'm sorry.
Well, so I meet him at the restaurant. He had invited me to dinner because he had come to Columbia, Maryland, which is our engineering facility, the day before. And he said, you need to have dinner with me tomorrow night in New York. And I said, well, I just can't come to New York and have dinner with you. I mean, I've got stuff to do here. And he says, well, I'm going to find something for you to do, and then you're going to have dinner with me. And I was like, fine. So
fine.
He sets up a meeting for me to talk to a bunch of Dell sales management at their office in New York City. So basically I take the train up. It was a Wednesday morning. And I get off the train, check into the hotel, which is, of course, a Hilton property, and then go back and do the meeting.
You don't say. It's a Hilton property.
Yeah, of course. Being a lifetime diamond, that would make sense, right? So I go back. I do the meeting. I was supposed to talk for 45 minutes, but they asked enough questions and so forth to take it about an hour and a half. And then I go back to the hotel. I do a little bit of workout, some email and whatnot, and then I got to get ready to go to dinner. So I get a lift down to the restaurant, and I'm meeting him for dinner at 8 o'clock. He comes in, and we sit at a table. It's like 3 levels on the first level. And he was looking around and whatnot, and he says, I'm not really happy with where we're sitting. I was like, why? He says, I want to be up in the 3rd level. And there was a big party up there. And he says to the, because everybody in the restaurant knows him, right? And so he brings the, host over and says, I want to be up there. And host says, well, we got a big party up there. We don't really have room. He says, I want to be up there. I was like, oh, man, this is kind of awkward. Well, they set a table for 2 up there and kind of moved the other party over a little bit. And we're sitting up there. And everybody's looking and like, who the heck are these guys? Anyway, we're sitting up there. And he says, all right, we're going to get 3 bottles of wine. I'm going to pick the first one. You're going to pick the second one. And then I'll pick the third one. Okay.
So two people.
2 people.
Okay.
3 bottles.
Okay, carry on.
It's a lot of wine.
So he picks a bottle of 1961 Bordeaux from France.
Oh, boy.
Now, a 61 Bordeaux is recognized around the world as being one of the best years of Bordeaux ever.
I was going to say, I'm not a wine guy, and I actually know that. So, yeah, okay.
The bottle was $6,700. So we drank it. I picked a bottle, and I said, it's not going to be from France. It's going to be from California. And I picked Maya Camus Cabernet, but it was a little old. It was $850.
So you bought a cheap bottle.
I bought a cheap bottle. And then for dessert, he picked a white port from Portugal, which was only $1,500 or $1,600. But it was a half bottle. It was a $375, not a $750. That was, the alcohol bill was, $9,000, I guess. We did a tasting menu because I never saw a menu. Because when the chef came out, the chef comes out, introduces himself to me, and of course he already knows Alex. Mm-hmm. And Alex says,
this is Alex.
Alex Broussard.
Oh, okay.
And he says, we're going to do the tasting menu. I said, great. I don't know what this means. I don't know what I'm ordering or getting or any of that. So he just starts bringing out food. But first he asked, do you like walnut, maple, oak, whatever it is? And I was like, walnut. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what we were getting as a result of it. He made homemade soda, and mine was walnut.
Homemade soda.
I had a homemade walnut soda. It was amazing.
Wow.
Totally amazing. So had that with the wine. Of course, I really enjoyed it, And then we started getting food. And half of it, I had no idea what it was. Now, it's, small portions, but it's a portion every 30 minutes. We get there at 8, get the drinks. Food starts coming at 8:30. We kept getting food till midnight.
Well, I mean, I'm thinking about this. So you're essentially you had 2.5 bottles of wine
over 4 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's
Oh no,
reasonable.
5 hours. We were there till 1:00. We closed the place.
But still, I mean, that's a lot of alcohol for two people.
That's
It's
still
a lot.
reasonable.
So you need. What kind of drunk are you?
It is the drunk squirrel, right?
It is the drunk squirrel.
Wait a minute,
That's
wait a
right.
minute. You discovered this when we had Jeremy Schraefels on.
Yeah,
Who of us was cuddled up on the couch asleep?
that was me.
Yeah.
Bookers did that to me.
Ooh, Booker's, yeah.
Yeah,
that'll do
Bookers
it.
did that to me. We need to have Jeremy back in town, and the four of us can do an episode.
Oh my gosh.
Can you imagine how much fun that would be?
I need a new liver.
Yeah, you will need a
That's a
You'll
good
need a
point.
transplant after that.
All right. So I'm going to throw another curveball.
Oh,
Hopefully
God.
this one's easier and we'll switch topics.
I doubt it.
What state is Philadelphia Phillies outfielder and speedster Shane Victorino from?
Hawaii.
That was easy.
That's an easy one.
Did you want to think about that at all?
No.
Well,
All
no,
right,
because
well
his
then-
nickname is the Flying Hawaiian.
Hawaiian.
All right, fine. We'll just move
So,
on.
I mean, that just,
Yeah, that was.
Well, I
that was
appreciate
easy.
you putting that one on a tee for us.
I told you I just pulled Phillies trivia.
As soon as you said Shane, I knew what it was.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's an easy question.
All right, great.
But anyway, yeah, sure.
All right, so one of the big... Oh, man, I don't know which topic to pick from.
So, I can tell you what's happening here already, and I'm going to pull rank on this one. Because Rob and I are the hosts, so
Okay.
our rank is 50-50 here, but I'm sitting in front of the computer, so I'm going to pull rank because I have the mouse. So we're going to do 2 episodes for this
Okay.
because there's no way we can cram this into one episode because we haven't hit trains and we haven't hit the
Scary stuff.
career path that you chose. We've talked alcohol, which is
Fitting for the drunk
100%
squirrel.
awesome, right? So I'm going to say, so we're 37 minutes in. So I'm going to say we do 2 episodes. What do you think, Rob? We've done this on the fly before.
So my only caveat is somebody has to go and get my kid.
At what time?
10 minutes.
You said 5:30.
No, he's done it fine. Melinda's here. She can go and get my kid. Our
Okay.
kid.
Okay, fine. Yeah, I think we need to do a second episode.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue that.
Okay.
This is a 2-part
Yeah.
because
I say we wrap this one up here at 38 minutes,
and we'll come back and do
and we'll reconvene in like 30 seconds. But you know,
refreshing my drink.
two
Good
refreshing
idea.
my drink. 2 weeks from the people listening, and because I know how this is going to go, and this is going to go way beyond anything you want in one episode. So people will just shut it down. They're like,
There's
"All
a
right."
lot to Randy, and we're only just scratching the surface.
You've
We haven't
been-
gotten past drinks.
Just so Randy, just so you know, Rob's been begging for this episode for a while, and I'm like, with your schedule and everything, it's tough to know ahead of time when you're even going to be in town. A lot of times
it
we
is.
don't know till a couple days in advance,
Right.
and then everybody's got plans, and it's difficult. It's difficult. So Rob's
That'll
been
all change in February.
Are you
Well-
retiring?
Yes.
Oh, congratulations.
February 11th.
But are you retiring?
We'll see.
Partially.
We'll see.
At least partially.
We'll see.
Anyway, but yeah, so I know Rob's been really, really begging for this episode, and some of these things I know, some of them are fresh for me. Like the story that you just told was I didn't know that story. So
Well, I mean,
it's-
sit
it's
and
cool.
wonder for a moment that, he went and had a 5. I can say 5.
Can you?
I don't know.
How much have you had?
Not enough, Mother.
No. Well, you sat outside and played ukulele before Randy got here.
I know.
How much bourbon do you need to do that?
That was before I had bourbon in my system.
It's true. I think
I don't
you
know
could
if I
probably
can play
get
it
in here
anymore.
That might be true also.
But, yeah. So there's a lot to Randy.
There is.
He sat and had a 5-hour dinner. I mean, we're trying to compress everything into an hour and a half tops, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I say we wrap this one up right here.
2-part. We'll see you
and
in
we're
2
going to do
weeks.
2 parts. We're going to dig into, like we said, trains.
Yep.
Because I know that is a common...
I'm not a geek. You're a geek. Oh, wait. Sorry.
No, it is a common interest for the two of you.
Yes.
And, I will tell a little story about the Model Trains magazine that always came out during our Wake Forest trips. That's a fun little story. It's not a deep story, but it's funny.
That's better than the things you find in your attic.
Yes, it is. So, all right, we're going to wrap this one up here. We're going to come back again in 2 weeks for you listening. We're going to come back again in about 5 minutes for us. And we're going to dig into some more stuff because I know Rob is geeking out over here. And with good reason.
We haven't even gotten into some of it, so yeah.
With good reason. So we want to keep, don't want to give people 2-hour episodes because they can't keep their attention that long. So
No, and that's fair. So
we need to keep it here. So again, thank you for listening to this episode of The Drunk Squirrel.
Kenny.
Randy, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
You are trying to steamroll me. Hold on, Kenny.
No. We could
Kenny's
do
quick
Kenny's
serve.
Nuggies of Wisdom.
Kenny's quick serve.
In episode 2.
Quick serve.
No.
All right. Fine.
Quick serve?
Quick serve.
Gratitude.
There you go.
Gratitude. We were at last night, real quick. We were at the Three Legacies Wrestling event last night. And
Jesus, shout out to you.
Jesus, yeah. Shout out to them, first off. I'm wearing a shirt. Shout out to Jesus and Chris Dreisbach. So we were on the way there, and there was somebody that was in attendance. We had not arrived yet. There was somebody in attendance that took a picture of the video display board that's at Clipper Magazine Stadium, and a giant photo of Nell was on this thing, and the What the Nell podcast, right? And he said, he's like, "Oh, how much did you pay for this? Like, I'd really love to do something like this for my thing." And Nell looks at me. She's like, "I didn't even know this was happening." And she's like, "I don't know how to answer that question." And so to have gratitude, because they are putting on this event, which is their biggest event of the year. There's weather, right? So they don't know if it's going to be able to go off without a hitch. But in all of that, Chris and Jesus thought to include Nell's podcast on the digital board that they were putting all their sponsors on, and they were cycling it through, and Nell's one of the things that they put on there. And those are the types of friendships that you can't put a value on.
Right.
And then when it all was done, we went down to, they were tearing the ring down and putting the chairs away and things like that. And Jesus was like, "Oh, did you see the board?" I'm like, "Yeah, we saw it. It was up there 15 times." So it was unbelievable. So gratitude is the answer to that. Like, they didn't have to do that. We didn't pay them to do that or anything. And those are the types of friendships that you really, really hang on to. And those are the types of good people that you hang on to.
Hey, and turnaround is fair play. Check out Three Legacies Wrestling and Jesus, because they're amazing people. They're good people.
Yep.
And
they are sponsors of this podcast for the rest of this podcast.
Wow, that's a pretty bold statement, and I agree with it.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
good job, Jesus.
You treat people the way they treat you, and that
These
went
good people.
really, really far for me.
So
it was cool.
all right.
All right,
See,
Randy,
quick serve.
thank you for joining us.
Sure.
I hope you'll hang around for part 2.
Absolutely.
You have no choice because you have bourbon and there's cheese.
There you
So,
go.
well, you do have a choice, but I don't think you're going anywhere anyway. So, anyway, thank you for listening to The Drunk Squirrel. We'll see you again in 2 weeks.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening to The Drunk Squirrel. No need to pay a tab. Just be sure to follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and drop us a line, thedrunksquirrel82@gmail.com. Cheers.